straight in and do it. In the top right position, spawning as the red Terran player, it's Naama. And his opponent down in the lower left, we have the teal, not spawning as blue, just to annoy production, Harstem.
That's right. I wonder how annoyed Nick is going to be at this turn of events. I'm sure he'll be able to take it in stride.
He will. He can't, I don't think he can adjust the overlay to actually show teal, though. I think that's why they have to be red and blue.
That's right. On these particular ESET overlays, red and blue is the order of the day. No massive big deal, though. And what are we looking to see from these two players in this game? I'm going to make a prediction straight off the bat, which is cross spawns, relatively direct route to your opponent's base, no winding path. It is a straight line as soon as Naama scouts at his opponent's cross positions. Whatever attack he does, it will involve a lot of SCVs this game.
It definitely will. Now, of course, this watchtower in the center will play an absolutely critical role because in the vertical spawn positions, it's helpful but not essential because there's the attack path away from it. But in cross spawns, unless you go through the path of that watchtower, you have to go on a monumentous expedition in order to avoid it. So, not really something that would be worthwhile. In terms of what these two are chucking out at the moment, we do have the factory just completing for Naama at the moment. For Harstem, he's not really throwing too much crazy out. He just got the 2 gas, both with 3 workers in each, so probably going to go to quite tech heavy here.
And the factory lifting, landing, and lifting a couple of times, doing a bit of a hokey pokey inside his base, but we now have double Hellion production coming out of the factory. I have to say, Naama really, he's really averse to the use of Widow Mines. We haven't really seen that out of him at all this series.
You know what they say about great minds, Jorasar? I was just thinking precisely that
Great minds or great titans? We haven't seen any of those either, to be fair.
Maybe we'll see great minds and great minds. We can always hope. But yeah, of course, this is the thing. That mines they have a limited effectiveness, in my opinion, against Protoss. They're only really useful in the early game where the gateway unit count is low, where you can knock out a very large percentage of your opponent's standing force with just 1 mine hit.
Great, no, that's a great point and definitely valid, but these Hellions aren't... Oh, okay, maybe I spoke too soon. Aren't going to do too much. Oh my god, that bunching up was ridiculous. Great force field as well. And, well, those Hellions got a grand total. Get ready for the drum roll. 0 worker kills. Great initial hits, but, yeah, just nowhere close to enough, unfortunately.
No, it was... Also, the damaged Hellion went in first, which, to be fair, Naama couldn't really do much about that unless he was paying stupid amounts of attention. But, yeah, this is now looking to be a pretty interesting game. We've got both players taking their expansions at pretty similar times. The robotics facility on its way down for Harstem. We've also got the starport just on its way for Naama with Stim. So both getting a lot more geared towards the mid-game.
Yeah, and unlike some games where Naama would immediately add on a whole bunch of barracks or go straight...
Oh, the Hellions are coming in from both sides.
Oh,
look at
wow.
this Hellions.
But they have to go from both sides up the same ramp, so it's not like they're... Oh, are they going to try and run up into the main? Oh dear, the sentry's completely blocking it. Photon overcharge as well at the natural expansion. Yes, it wastes a lot of energy on that mothership core, but in return for once again 0 workers killed, it is definitely worth it. Amount of resources lost so far, 600 for Naama versus 0 for Harstem, who is still playing a perfect game.
That's pretty cost effective, I'd say.
Flawless victory.
Indeed it was. And, I mean, the one thing, those sentries... They clearly have a bit of force field envy and wanted to be force fields themselves and just stood on the ramp.
And it worked beautifully. I mean,
new metagame there being developed by Harstem.
They're not doing very well at all, and we see we're going into predominantly a Hellion Marauder composition coming out of here from Naama. But after losing the first 4 Hellions, yes, okay, it's still going to be effective, and we might see an SCV pull with it. But that's a fair chunk of the army, to be honest, because there are only 2 Hellions left right now. 3 Marauders with the medevac. Imagine if those 2 Hellions were 6. It was just... It's a frustrating situation for him to be in right now, no doubt. And he's actually picked up the Marauders in the medevac, interestingly. Let's see if this becomes a drop of any description. We have an observer inside Naama's main base, sees that he's making more barracks, so is unlikely to go for any sort of super early factory-heavy play here. And let's see...
Well, hasn't really been that effective for Naama. Mech
No.
hasn't worked well for him, so I think it's right that he's switching back, but here comes the drop, the boosting medevac on his way and gets spotted by an observer as it flies forward. This Forge is very vulnerable here, though.
The Immortal. He needs to move the Immortal back. It's going to do so well against these Marauders, of course, armored unit, but never mind. It looks like he's going to get them out of the way.
The natural base taking quite a bit of damage. The probes are getting, well, they're getting roasted to death.
If at first you don't succeed, Maddles, try again. That's exactly what's happening here. Finally, Naama gets some of the work kills he wanted to get. 3 Marauders once again inside the main base. The Photon Overcharge targeting down the medevac as opposed to anything else. And the Marauders, for some reason, hitting the Nexus, not being micro to kill those probes, unfortunately. Oh, and the medevac gets away with 17 hit points as well. Finally, the damage Naama was looking for. 14 workers killed in this game.
To be fair, in the last game, it did take Naama about 20 minutes to do that, so he should be feeling very good as his opening goes at the moment. But the scan being used, picking off the observer, but a lot has already been seen. The natural base, happily mining. We do have the +1 infantry weapons nearly complete, as well as combat shield on its way down. Armory is also in construction, so that just means that all in all, we should see Naama start +2 very early on, and would probably get a second engineering bay as well.
Yep, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen one bit. Combat shield once again a little bit behind the other upgrades, but that's because he grabbed that early stim as well. More barracks being made inside the main base right now as well. So we're going up to a total of 5. 2 of them already have reactors on them, so that's a decent amount of production off of 2 base. He doesn't look like... he is actually scouting around the third to see if there's a proxy pylon there or similar, but we'll find out in the next minute or two if he's actually interested in taking a third base or if this is going to be a 2 base all-in.
Well, it's getting to the point where you have to take it, to be fair, or at least start it. And in Tomb Valley is one of the maps where it is actually quite easy to secure for both Protoss and Terran that third base, because it is quite isolated and very comfortable. The Phoenix will spot a lot, though. Sees precisely what's coming down. Sees there's no third base. Sees there's not even a third command center in construction everywhere. And that's a good little scout out by Harstem, who, credit to him, in every game has been so diligent in getting that information.
Yep, that's a great point there. He's just making sure that Naama isn't going for some sort of heavy macro style behind this. Note, don't forget, Naama has played already one game where he's tried to get away with a hidden base. That hasn't worked. Harstem, interestingly, hasn't scouted for any hidden bases in this particular game. But there's no need to at the moment because one isn't forthcoming. A lot of Hellbats and Marauders on the way from Naama, though. So I'm leaning more and more to believing this is going to be an absolutely massive push in about a minute. I think +2 attack is going to be the time where he hits, possibly with SCVs.
Almost certainly with SCVs. This is Naama we're talking about. Like,
yeah.
he's gonna pull them, but here in comes the Phoenix now. And it's just, again, sitting there, will get taken out, but just wants to make sure that he sees exactly what's going on. +2 is but only 70 seconds away from completion, so the push can really get ready to move out. There's the salvage on the bunker. I'm waiting for the big selection of the SCVs, and that's when I know that it will occur.
See, this actually might make Naama think twice about this push, because he saw with that boosted medevac that he's distracting as he moves out with the army, and note, no SCVs. And here's why I like that decision. That medevac saw that there was no third base down for Harstem. That means he is expecting Harstem to stay on 2 base and be prepared for an all-in. And he's not as confident as he was before that it's absolutely going to work, so he held off on pulling SCVs for a bit, and instead he's going to probe out with the army instead.
Well, the push is getting ready. +2 is nearly complete. The third command center is about to be constructed. The Ghost Academy also on its way down. Storm nearly finished. Everything all lining up for us to get into the late game stages. But can Naama hurt before that? Will he want to? Well, it's done. The Vikings are there. There is a grand total of 9 Vikings up against a single Colossus. It's going to go down very quickly. The Stalker count only at 5. That Colossus has no chance. There goes the single scan. The Hellbats are there. And Naama doesn't go.
No, this is a really strange position for him to be. He's hoping that there was a third base. He would immediately pull SCVs and just win off of 2. That's not what's happening. And oh my god, memories of that previous game, that choke point and those storms coming back to haunt Naama now as 2 delicious storms consume the majority of that army.
Until, though, we do have quite a few more infantry units here, but the medevac count has been completely annihilated.
Harstem, overextending. He needs to not. Oh, he needs to just pull back and have another storm ready at the choke point. Why is he going forward to the cliff? I mean, he's going to win the battle anyway, but he could have won it with significantly more units if he didn't let Naama get that concave off. He's going to hold it off, and it looks like it's okay, but the supplies are actually quite even at the moment, 95 to 80, and Harstem doesn't want to go too far out of his base because the reinforcements from Naama might very well make a follow-up all-in feasible here.
This is, well, this is now a very, very good spot for Naama, in my opinion, because he's secured his third behind this, so that straight away just means that he's got the better economy. He's got a lot more SCV, 61 to just 49. He's got good upgrades. He's at 2-0 compared to 2-2 for Harstem, so slightly behind, but, and this is the big point, he has just such a better economy.
Yeah, his economy is fantastic, and that's precisely because he hasn't pulled those SCVs with that initial attack. Yes, he lost the army, but he's doing all right. His income at the moment is significantly higher than Harstem's, and is about to get higher thanks to the addition of that third base and a couple of mules. He might even consider getting a fourth at some point in the near future, but has to replenish his army first. He's got Mobius Reactor on the way, which I like, so EMP is going to form a very critical part of the next battle.
Well, this is completely true. EMP is going to make or break everything. The Colossus count is at 1, so another one was produced to replace it, and this is again potentially going to get Naama into a false sense of needing a lot of Vikings. He's already got out 4, he's got 2 more on the way, and if he keeps producing, a lot of them will be wasted. Admittedly, the Colossus will die exceptionally quickly, but if you get too many, the army composition for Terran is so essential late game against Protoss.
Yeah, you're completely right. A lot of it rides on those EMPs from the Ghost. A lot of it rides on how many Vikings you get out versus the number of Colossi. You don't want to overmake those Vikings. You need to make sure your army positioning is great so you're not susceptible to huge storms or just completely blanketed by those Zealots with charge, for example. You need to be very careful late game against Protoss. And of course, Protoss has to be careful with their army composition as well. It's not to say you just make units and go, but due to the death ball nature of that composition, you're a little bit less worried about position when you're attacking compared to Terran. Obviously, defensively, with those storms, in a choke point, you're great. You're laughing. But offensively, here we go.
Oh, we've got engagement coming on in the center of the map. The Colossus is taking a lot of damage from these Vikings. The infantry forcing back these Zealots, and there's not very many Stalkers. Where are the EMPs? That's what is all important here. The Ghosts are trying to snipe down on those High Templar. The Storms have not been successful yet, and for the moment, Harstem, he's in full retreat.
Yep, this position is too open for Harstem at the moment, and Naama abused that by... He actually split up his units on the way to the Watchtower, anticipating that there might be storms incoming. So Naama just got himself into a great position, and as a result, he wasn't able to get massive EMPs off on the army of Harstem or anything like that, which is why both armies still exist. But Harstem has to yield ground. He wants to try and engage Naama in a choke point where he's able to do the maximum damage, and wow, he's actually going back out into the open. Very risky, great EMPs, and I think this might be a mistake from Harstem.
Yeah, Naama, he is doing a lot of damage here. The Archon does go down, and that was the last real remaining power unit. We see that the Ghosts are even chipping away their cloak very far forward. Another stim being used just to pick off as many Stalkers as possible. And as we can see, Harstem's down to just 100 supply. This is not a good spot for him.
Yeah, that was a mistake to go so far forward there from Harstem. He saw that Naama was ready with the Ghosts and that he had spread his army out a reasonable amount, which meant the storms just weren't going to be that effective when moving it across the middle of the map. He needed to play it defensive, wait for Naama to push in, and if Naama didn't push in, then maybe push back out at something like 200 supply. But he didn't want to go out halfway there when he had EMPs available, did Naama. It was just a very risky move, and it didn't pay off for our Protoss.
It did not, and it was a big risk, but Naama now sitting very comfortably at 165 supply to just 118. He is pumping out so many units. There is a single Colossus on the field, a second one about to pop. Extended Thermal Lance, only half done though, and very risky. Harstem trying to take a fourth base, but he has got to do that, because ultimately, Naama has already got his fourth in production as well.
Yeah, but really tricky situation at the moment. 178 versus 126 supply. Naama currently up by 50. He's got 70 workers to 65, and the fourth base is going to be up soon as well. I mean, both sides taking the fourth, but the army supply from Naama just looks that much more menacing. He's nearly double his opponent's supply. And I think Naama really should be looking to move into the fourth base and deny it very, very quickly.
He can just push straight in now. He's got a massive, massive lead. Army supply-wise, it's 115 for Naama compared to just 81 of Harstem. The Viking count looking pretty spectacular. 10 out there up against just 2 Colossi. Great snipes go down on those High Templar. No storms are going to be a threat. A couple more High Templar coming in from the side. Good storms, but they did go down. And wow.
Fantastic storms, but is it going to be enough? The Vikings actually picking apart the Colossus. Once again, Harstem showing us how Storm can and should be used. And he did actually do a great job in that engagement, but will it be enough? Is the DPS from this army simply too much? It was Charge Lots coming in here, and is Harstem, thanks to the storms once again, really going to be able to hold off an engagement that it looked like he was going to lose? Oh, this is so close, but yes! Incredible!
That was incredible. Harstem, well, to be honest, Naama even did everything he had to. He sniped off so many High Templar there. I didn't actually see the ones down the bottom, and they just came in from the side, so that was absolutely brilliant by Harstem splitting those up, and just meant that now Naama, he's being forced back yet again. He's trying to get a planetary at his force, and wow, Harstem is still in this and still fighting.
He really is. I mean, okay, so it's obvious that one of Naama's weak points is micromanagement against storms. I think we can say that now based on this series. And Harstem, he's just been hanging in there like a real champ. Like you mentioned, he got several of those High Templars picked off very, very early on in that engagement, came back, landed 2 or 3 absolute money storms, and once again, it was just enough by the skin of his teeth to get back into a stable position here.
Well, it was a very, 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 very nice hold. And now, of course, Naama, he wants revenge, so he's pushing forward. He's trying to do some good damage, takes out an Observer with 7 Vikings because he's got to do something with them since the Colossus isn't with this army. A couple of Stalkers going down, the Ghost trying to chase this down, Archons are morphing, and this means that Harstem has to take this fight. The Colossus is there to the side, but it's getting absolutely demolished by the Vikings at the moment, and as we see, the infantry trying its best, but the Archons doing a nice amount of damage here, but I think there's just too much for Harstem to deal with.
Oh, 4 more Charge Lots coming in. Harstem really on edge here. This fight and this game is so unbelievably close. The problem is Harstem is down in supply, 118 to 143. A lot of medevacs getting taken out now as well. And another round of Zealots warping in. Will this be enough to bring Naama back? He's kiting around, trying to pick off the Stalkers, and now only Zealots versus Marauders are left. Naama is going to win this fight, but how close is it? Oh my goodness.
This is getting seriously tense right now, but the good news for Naama is he did manage to take out a lot of Harstem's key units. Only 2 High Templar remaining, 7 Zealots and 1 Colossus. Not much on the field at all. And so this just means that it's going to keep going on in this aggressive state. The upgrade advantage is there for Harstem. 3-3 up against 3-2 infantry upgrades for the Terran player. So things looking very, very close, I must say. And this game is getting really tense. I'm starting to get to that shaky point with excitement.
Yeah, oh god, 2 decent storms out there in the middle of the map. Harstem putting those out very quickly indeed. The Colossus doing a decent amount of damage, but the Vikings eventually taking it out. He will be able to push Naama back here, but as soon as Naama gets some reinforcements in, Harstem has to watch out. He's going to have control over the center of the map, warping in a lot of Charge Lots, which he wants to do against predominantly Bio army. Is he going to swap away from Colossi? I know he's continuing to make them, and as a result, Naama's perfectly happy continuing Viking production here.
Yeah, this is, well, the curse of Harstem's single Colossus. Only one may be on the field at the time, according to Naama, and he is going to make sure it stays that way. The second one is in production, but the next wave from Naama already starting to gear up. We see that he's up to 166 supply, but Harstem taking a 5th base now, making sure that he keeps his economy looking good and is ahead by 5 workers.
Yeah, at this point of the game, it's whoever can deny expansions wins in the long run because you're able to starve out your opponent. Harstem looking like he wants to be aggressive against Naama here, but his army really isn't that large. Naama's army is bigger, and admittedly he's picked a point where, okay, it's a little bit more choky compared to the center of the map, but he doesn't have those storms with his army just yet. In fact, he's moved back a bit. This is not the best engagement for Harstem if he takes one here. He needs to wait till he gets a bit more of a death ball, I think.
Yeah, Harstem, this is definitely one situation where size does matter, and yours just isn't measuring up to Naama's. So wait back, get a bit more of an army up, and then push in, because Naama, he keeps being aggressive, and every time he is, Harstem holds it off like a boss. So as long as he keeps doing that, he should be okay in this game, because he does have a comparable economy and that 5th base now up and running.
And here we go, Harstem moving forward against Naama here, trying to provoke an engagement. Here comes a stim. How many Vikings do we have out on the field right now? 7 at the moment, but they're not engaging the Colossi just yet, waiting for an opportunity. The sensor tower, I love this at the 4th base. Naama sees exactly where Harstem is, and both players are just going to wait until they think it's the perfect opportunity to engage.
Yeah, this is getting to the real endgame engagement time, but Harstem, you've got to be careful, don't overexert yourself forward, and we get some storms coming down yet again. The ghosts all getting annihilated. That was a big
That was huge. That was huge.
No EMPs going down. The Vikings are doing some good damage, but of course pulling back those Colossi as quickly as he can. One falls, the remaining Vikings are taken out. Harstem looking to take the supply advantage now. More storms are coming down, the infantry pulling back, lots of stims being used. Another good storm. This is really looking good for Harstem at the moment.
This is big. Almost all of those Vikings went down. There are still Colossi out on the field. There are Archons left on the field. There was even a storm left at the end of that. And Naama basically walked in with cloaked ghosts against that Protoss army. Unfortunately, there was an observer with that army, and all of those ghosts, every single one, was taken apart before the High Templars ran out of energy. So that was a really good move
another
there.
big push. Harstem is trying to move forward as best he can, and well, Naama just doesn't seem to have anything to stop this. The Colossi at the back doing a great amount of damage. The Vikings are now taking out a great storm, gets all of the medevacs there. There is now a grand total of no medevacs on the field. That means Naama can't overstim. This army is going to get absolutely crushed if he's not incredibly careful. The Colossi getting kited backward. Harstem doing such a good job now.
This might be it, I think, Maddles. Wow, unbelievable. Lose 100 battles and win the game. But to be perfectly honest, that is what happened, and Harstem